Good afternoon or morning, or depending on where you are. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here on Monday, March 9th in the New York area. My name is Mitch Weisberg, and I'm here to talk for MindShifting Monday with Mitch. And we're scheduled to have two educators talk to us. But one of the reasons why we started a little bit late is that as of right now, neither is here. So I'm going to start off just really talking about education and mind shifting, and hopefully they'll be able to finish up with their classes and come on. Otherwise, this might be a shorter version than normal, and then I'll throw open the chat just in case there's a couple messages from people. So um, basically, the I invited. Oh, okay. Okay, so I just received a message from one of them. So I think what I'm going to do is just sending a link. Okay, so basically, this came about because we teach three different courses for educators. One course is basically on resourcefulness. That's how you use the mind, and we're finishing up that course next week. We teach it twice a year. That course is 6 sessions long, 6 2-hour Zoom sessions. And then the second course is on resilience, which is how we prepare to be successful even when things don't work out the first time, how we react and prepare for situations. And that course is also 6 2-hour sessions. Then the course that we started and finished in January and February was the course Mind Shifting, Conflict, and Collaboration. And that course is 8 2-hour sessions. And that course goes into the different ways that trigger us and trigger students and family members, how to recognize the different triggers, and then how to work through them so that whatever the issue is gets resolved. And one of the keys, one of the first things that we talk about in the conflict and collaboration course is stories that whether we're in the classroom teaching or whether we're interacting with family members or arguing politics with somebody, that we have in our minds that something is right and something else is wrong. And what we have in our mind by default, we regard as the truth. But actually, what we have in our mind is a story. And the way the brain works for us and the way the brains work with our students and our family members is that the brain takes a very limited amount of information and comes up with something that it latches onto. That's not necessarily true and it's not necessarily false. That's just convenient. And the brains do that because they have to assess threats really quickly and react to them. So uh, in uh, in psychology, we they call those stories, and then the stories very often cause us to react or cause other people to react in a certain way, and the way you react based on the story is called a script. In in the course, we spend a lot of time talking about the stories that students have going in their heads, um, and the stories that we, as the adults in the room, also have going on in our heads, and how those stories influence our actions. So, for example, a student may have this story that they're not good in math. Now, as soon as they have the story that they're not good in math, they're not going to be good in math because the scripts that they follow is that when something gets hard, it's like, oh, I'm not good at math. I can't do this. And then we talked about ways to allow people to change their stories because a person, again, the story, I'm not good at math, you can't just challenge that. If a person believes that they can't do something, and you come back and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, you could do that. Come on, just work a little bit harder. Yeah, you could do that." That more often than not triggers the other person to to get into an argument. It triggers their fight or flight reaction. Like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're telling me I can't? I can do this. I know I can't do this, and then that triggers a reaction in us. So the way around that is to kind of fool them into opening up instead of directly challenging that. So, so one way we do that in the course is one of the very first techniques that we teach is the perhaps I can technique, um, where if a person is sure that they can't do something, instead of saying you know yes you can, you say, well, how do you know that you can't do it? And the person comes up with how they know they can't do it, and then you kind of prompt them and say, well, when you know that when you think about doing this and you know that you can, is it like you have this voice in your head that says I can't do this? And 95% of the times they say, oh yeah, I just I think about doing it, and I this voice says I can't do it. And then you prompt them to say, well, something, next time you hear that voice and it says you can't do this, why don't you just respond with perhaps I can, and let's see what happens. So let's say that you had this math problem. Now you can't do this, right? Now you hear that voice saying I can't do this. What if you respond to that voice with perhaps I can? Go ahead, think about doing it. Hear the voice, respond perhaps I can, and then you ask them, and what happened? And probably in about two-thirds of those cases, the person comes back that their brain started thinking about ways that they could do it. Maybe not that they could do it immediately, but ways that they could do it either by um, going back through the book and looking at methods, or ask somebody to walk them through a similar example, or trying something simpler first, or just doing the first step. But their brain will start coming up with ways that eventually, through practice or through work, or maybe even immediately, they'll they'll be able to do that. But that's not the only type of story that people tell in their mind, in their mind. Maybe, another type of story that people tell in their minds is, when, let's say, they want to use a toy and another kid is using the toy. A story that they say in their mind is, I should be able to use that toy, and they reach for it. And of course we could admonish them, but we're not really reaching the root of the issue. Then the root of the issue is that we have to replace that story with another story. And so we use a technique in the course called motivational interviewing, which can be used as early as kids 6 or 7 in a modified format. But motivational interviewing is a type of questioning where you're showing interest in the other person and you're getting them to convince themselves to change their behavior. And so if you go back to that example, um, and I think, and Heaven says she just joined, um, but I'm not seeing her here. Oh, unable to connect to the room. Oh, Heaven is probably joining. Probably, let me just text her again. Um, you, ah, so, um, so it looks like, or Laura, or, well, that was Laura. Sorry, Laura got unable to connect. Um, so she's probably trying to connect from school, but uh, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just going to text her. Okay. Okay. And hmm. So, in heaven, if you're here, I'm going to text you theoretically the link. Um, uh, um, so I'm going to text both of them. Okay. So, so while I'm still here, so I was talking about motivational interviewing, and the child. Let's just say the child sees a person playing with a toy, decides that they want the toy. Motivational interviewing might step in and say, "Oh, I see that you're interested in playing with this toy." And he said, "Yes, I want to play with this toy." And then and then start asking some other questions. Well, you know something, if you were playing with the toy, and somebody else wanted it, would you want them to take the toy from you? And inevitably no. And then probably some other question with, well, you know something, I guess, do you think it might be a good idea, to take turns with toys? And so you're slowly asking them a series of questions, um, showing that you're interested in them and kind of talking to them. Now, obviously, you can't do that when the child is totally triggered. And I see heaven, and so heaven, are you here as you're you're muted right now? Ah,
Yes.
ah, okay, but well, welcome, and there you are. Thank you. Um, So yeah, and let me see. I think I have another email from Laura, and Laura seems to be blocked.
Oh.
Um, so it might be just you and me. Uh, so we'll just basically I'll I gave a quick introduction to mind shifting. I talked about the three mind shifting classes, and I mentioned something about stories and a little bit about motivational interviewing. So that's where I was. And then just going, and Laura just, yeah, she's getting unable to connect to the room. Um, so it looks like it's just going to be you and me. So let me, introduce you. So this is Evan Torres, and you teach special education in Poughkeepsie. And Poughkeepsie is what, about 30, 40 miles north of New York City along the Hudson River. That's about right?
Yep.
And I guess, uh, the first thing is most people. Well, how did you find out about the mind shifting course? Because it's not like we advertise a lot, but it's on the New York State Teacher Center sites. But how did you find out about it?
So the district kind of just sent it out, and they sent it all out. But I was also going through on like Frontline and all of that, looking for courses, and this is just one that caught my eye.
Okay. And of course, you need to get PD, at credit hours for it. So that kind of
Hmm.
helps be able to get the credit hours. Um, and then, I was talking a little bit about, stories before you got on, but one of the stories, like dealing with, well, what age group do you teach?
So I teach third and fourth grade. So I'm
Okay.
in a combined class. I'm in a 15-1 setting.
So when the kids get a story in their head that they're shutting down, what do you do?
A lot of the times when the kids get a story in their head and they're shutting down, I have to like take a pause and try to figure out what caused that shutdown. Because if I can't figure out what caused that shutdown, then that's going to drag on into literally the rest of their day.
Hmm. And then, and how do you go about doing that? Because they're not going to be able to articulate it, right?
Right.
Without without you being able to, I guess, if you try to deflect them while they're triggered, what happens?
So when they're triggered and I try to just jump in and redirect or correct, they automatically meet me with that like limbic mode and that really strong no, get out of my face, stop talking to me. They may curse me out, they may throw something at me, and they kind of respond pretty violently sometimes.
Um, but you're the teacher. Can't you just tell them what? No, I'm just kidding. So I think that, and that was a big part. My guess is that you did a lot of this before, but was there, what about the mind shifting? A lot, gave you extra tools to be able to help them quiet.
Well, I think that this was really helpful for me because I am a second year teacher. So I am still developing a lot of my toolkit. And although I have like a lot of informal ways, I've never really had a full training on how to properly de escalate and in a way that is humane, isn't just like a step by step robotic process that it's supposed to fit all kids.
Hmm. And then and we talked about certain things about like motivational interviewing and nonviolent communication. How can you use those with kids as early as third and fourth grade?
So nonviolent communication and even motivational interviewing are amazing tools in order to help the kids have a moment to acknowledge and understand and kind of accept their own feelings first. Because when you make a kid talk something out, it's helping them model how to process that in their brain so that when they're independently doing it, they're able to independently process their
Hmm.
feelings and emotions.
So what I'm hearing you is that it's a form of co-regulation
Right.
that the children. I mean, a lot of adults aren't capable of self-regulation, right? Um, but the children certainly aren't capable of self-regulation, and really the way most of us would try to approach the kids, which is basically like, hey, calm down, it's not that serious. That wouldn't work either. So with co-regulation, you're, um, I guess, connecting with them in a way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in nonviolent communication is the way of making requests in a way that is less likely to trigger them. So what I'm I mean, what I advocate for, and I'm probably putting words in your mouth. Not, I'm trying, but I can't help it because I'm a guy, right? Um, but I'm thinking that with motivational interviewing and kind of strength based statements, you're calming them down and getting them to talk about it. And then when you're ready for them to actually do something, you're framing it in a way that is less likely to trigger them by using the techniques of nonviolent communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with that nonviolent communication, I'm literally being able to go in, ask them questions, kind of redirect them in a different route so that they know that I'm still here, I care, but also
Mhm.
they're able to interact in a different way and distract their minds until we get to a point where, hey, let's actually talk about this real quick. Can we do that? Because if you're not ready, I'm not ready. And giving them that level of like control so that they understand that they have control over the situation as well as themselves.
In At the end of the class, you produced a really cool poster, um, and one of the items on the poster is like a pause or staying calm. So, um, how do you get that through to the kids to do that pause?
So, a lot of the times, I will set timers in my classroom and literally say, okay, do you need a second? How much time do you need? Do you need a minute? Do you need 2 minutes? And then we'll set a timer. That way, I'm enforcing that it is okay to have processing time so long as you're able to articulate that you need that processing time. And then immediately, I'm like, hey, great job at asking for that, because they need to understand that this is what we want them to do. This is the intention. And this is how we're going to move forward from here. Is being able to say, like, hey, I'm angry. Like, I'm at my boiling point. Like, I just need 5 seconds to myself. And
Mhm.
if you need more time, ask for more time.
So you're affirming them, in my words, you're affirming them as human beings, right? Which is really, really cool. And you're giving them agency because you're not saying, I'll give you a minute to take a time out. I mean, you're asking them, well, how much time do you need? Which is pretty subtle way of, you know, giving them agency in a way that nudges them towards something constructive. That was pretty ingenious. That was not in the course, so that was you.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, you know, that, that's amazing. And then you're reinforcing it with praise. And what happens in the brain? Um, what do you see happening? And you can see it in their faces, I guess, when they're expecting to be admonished or yelled at, or in their terms, and yet you're giving them praise. What do you see in their whole demeanor at that point?
Honestly, a lot of the times I just see a sigh, like a okay, right? Like it's a moment where they realize that they don't have to be so tense. And sometimes I have to like draw it to their attention. Like I have
Mhm.
students with autism who are very focused on rules and they're very uptight to say the least. And if things aren't going their way, they can't hear anything else. And so a lot of the times being able to have those moments with them and saying, hey, do you see me? Like, let's look at me for a second. I'm calm. I need you to do the same
Mhm.
because I'm not going to combat with you. I'm not going to fight with you. That's not what I'm here for. I want to talk. And if you're not ready to talk, that's fine. But you need to show that. You need to tell me that because we are not in the same mode right now. And even just that, them being able to see that there is that clear difference, they'll take that second and they'll be able to bring it down. And then I'm like, hey, great job. Let's have this conversation now because you look so ready. And automatically you'll see like the biggest smile on their face. It's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. Now, you're as you're saying this, I'm imagining. I mean, I'm listening to, but I'm also imagining, kind of an old school teacher hearing that, saying, "I don't have time for this stuff. I just need to tell them what to do." And um, what would you say to somebody who said that to you? Like, "Oh, I don't have time for this stuff. I just want to tell them what to do and have them do it."
I would say I really wish that it worked like that. And I really wish the kids nowadays just learned how to follow directions. But they don't have the capacity for that. And most kids don't because their brains aren't developed enough to be able to just follow rules and kind of be in that robotic systemic nature. And just taking 5 seconds and making it a routine will then make it so that this 5 seconds is fast. It doesn't have to be an all day belabored process.
Mm.
Sometimes I'll set a timer and be like, you have 2 minutes to talk to me, and that's all you get.
Hmm.
So let's go.
Wow.
And it helps them speed up that process. So that way it's the same as them following directions the first time, but they also still felt like they heard and they're able to be a part of what's going on with their education and their learning.
Because it it might be possible that if the child is in a trigger state and you pull a teacher pulls their power on the kid, they might be able to get some short-term compliance because the kid will shut down. But what happens long term then?
Well, long term, the kid then feels like, and I've had kids say this where they're like, I feel like you don't listen to me. I feel like you don't care. I feel like, and this is third and fourth grade, and they will literally say, like, I feel like you don't have any care in the world for anything I have to say. So why am I going to listen if every time I try to speak, you don't listen?
So in my thought process, it's like by taking that time at the beginning, what you end up doing is you end up saving a lot of time and amplify the effect so that it's not a recurring issue. Is
Yeah.
Okay. On the other hand, with adults, you can just tell adults what to do. Like I can just tell my wife, like, I want you to do this, 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 and she always obeys me, right? And if you believe that, okay, then I would like to sell you a bridge called the Brooklyn Bridge, and for $1, you can
Right.
right. So it's really the same thing with when we're dealing with adults. Is um, as so wonderfully articulated. It's like spend a little bit of time making sure that you have the connection, and you can do that through giving your questions that you have, giving agency, um, and the positive statements that you made, like, wow, you did this really well. um, you get that reaction, which you see because you're a master at this, of the kid relaxing. And that means that once the child or the other person, if you're doing it if you're intervening with an adult, but the child relaxes, which says, okay, now we can start working on the real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done it with adults too. Parents are just as much in crisis as the kids sometimes.
Really? Can you just would you mind
Yeah.
describing something? Okay.
Like I've had parents that are just angry and they're angry at everybody and they're angry at everything and their child is extremely overwhelming. So they will be like, "Listen, I have my own mental problems. You're not hearing me. You're not helping my kid. They're not being supported. This. And they go on this snowball. And so I do that, take a second, and I listen to everything they have to say. And then I repeat it back. And I'm like, "Hey, I hear that you're going through all of this stuff. And I just need you to know that you're an amazing parent. You are working really hard. For you to be this all concerned means that you're doing what you need to do as a parent. Because sometimes that's what a parent needs to hear. And they need to know that they're doing what they need to do. And then from there, that opens the road to other conversations about what their child needs and what they need, and the ways that I can best support them as a teacher."
So you have to be pretty masterful with that because what what you didn't say is that you're not agreeing with everything that they say when they're
Right.
saying you're not taking care of my child, you're not listening, you're not agreeing that yeah, you're right, I'm not taking care of your child, I'm not listening, I don't really care about your child anyhow, so can we finish, you're not saying any of that, but you're going getting into an agreement frame by
Yeah.
validating what they're feeling and overall what their intention is, which is to help their child. And um, that's pretty awesome. And I can't believe that you've only been teaching for 2 years and you're doing that. That's pretty amazing. Now you also you've used the phrase, I need to know what your big brain knows.
Yep.
So I thought that was a really cool statement. Like what does that mean and what does that do with the child?
I actually did that today with a kid who was like really struggling with multiplication and she didn't even want to try the problem. And I looked at her and I said, "Girl, tell me what your brain knows cuz I won't know it if it's stuck in there. So I need you to help me because I forget." And it gives her that chance to take ownership and be like, "Hey, no, I know this, Miss Heaven. Let me help you. Let me help you do this and let me help you do that." Because the moment that the kids realize that they can help an adult, now they're like, "Oh, wait, I got this." And it's like an instant confident boost for them.
And it's so cool because I think, well, I know, human brains are wired. I mean, we're social animals, okay? And we seek we seek to connect, and that drive to connect is so strong that contributes to so many group behaviors that are beneficial and not beneficial. And what you're doing when you're saying, "Help me see this, I need your help," is you're tapping into that desire for for the kid in this case to
Yeah,
want to connect and to want to help. And the way that they're doing that is a way that allows you to then help them. And they're then not the object that you're helping,
right.
is they're helping you and then you're helping them, so you're working through something together. Kind of changing this from I'm the teacher, you're the student, you do this, to like, hey, we're two human beings, here's the situation, how are we making this a better situation for both of us? So I think so yeah, that's pretty amazing. Um, I'm looking at the time, and so we're a little bit past.
Hmm.
What would you, if somebody, I guess this is like Craven promotion, but I'm going to ask anyhow. If somebody were to say, I'm thinking of taking one of the mind shifting courses,
Hmm.
what would you say to
I would say please do.
them?
I think that for me, this is something that has opened up my brain to things that I already do, but then things that I didn't even fully have in my brain yet. And I think that getting access to a group of educators that are like minded and want to work through things and care about their students from all over was so awesome to be able to share stories and like just pick each other's brains. I think this course was super awesome and super amazing.
Wow. Okay. All right. So yeah, after we close this down, I'll send you your $5 for saying that. So well, thank you for saying that. And well, so this is Mitch. This is and I was talking to Heaven Torres about how she works with special education students and gets them, motivated, helps co-regulate them, and teaches them how to start moving towards self-regulation. Um, and thank you very much for coming, and hope to see some of you next week on Mind Shifting Mondays with Mitch.